Flying in the Pool, Chapter 14, My Most Romantic Flight. Sometimes your most romantic flight can be without your treasured loved one working alongside you. Pan Am's team bidding was designed to keep us sweethearts together, but it didn't always work. For the love month of February, in spite of our many submitted team bids, Pam and I were assigned a month of opposing flights. We would be separated for the first time since we met and started flying together. Once again, my Portuguese language qualification had me working 4 trips to Rio, with Carolyn and Fred, the same pursers and mostly the same crew the whole month. The morning of February 14th, I'm packing my uniform, dressing for a second trip, and instead of planning a Valentine's Day night out, I had to say goodbye to my sweetheart as she dropped me off at the Miami terminal. A rare treat, but one gleefully afforded Pan Am cruise, I got to deadhead, not work, all the way down to Rio. We used to lavish our brothers and sisters when they got to fly as a passenger, and for this flight I was sitting in 5E, one of the 2 show seats in our 747 first class. As I recall, I got really drunk from the vodka on the caviar cart, and in the middle of the roast beef cart fell off to sleep and stayed that way until just before landing. A day on the beach in front of the Rio Sheraton, gorging on Brazilian churrascaria poolside, and next morning I'm back on a Pan Am 747, working my way home. However, halfway across the dreaded Amazon, we got an all call from the cockpit, informing us we don't have enough fuel to safely make Miami, and we'll have to stop in Caracas to top off. Landing around sunset, it didn't take long to fuel up, and once again we were airborne. Quite unusual for me. For this final leg to Miami, I was assigned first class in the upper deck, a position now workable in my sleep. Finally figured out how to lean over a dessert cake without getting it on my uniform. Dipping in and out of the cockpit, I had made friends with the guys up front since Wheels Up at Galleon. About an hour out of Caracas, I've got my light passenger load taken care of. The elaborate meal service had been completed soon after we left Rio. It's late at night with a clear sky outside. We're flying over a moonlit Atlantic and all my charges are asleep. So once again, I use my cockpit key, and under the guise of taking the guys a light snack, it gives me another reason to while away a few minutes and feel sorry for myself that I couldn't be with Pam on our first Valentine's Day. As I enter the pit, immediately I can tell they're not talking to traffic control, as the first officer is on the radio in casual conversation, not the typically coded and brief airline speak. Soon I figured it out. From our Pan Am Flight 440, they're talking over the company frequency to Pan Am Flight 441, southbound for Rio. Damn, it strikes me, my beloved Pamela is working that flight. Quickly, I tell the captain my dilemma. I'm a new guy in Miami, dating a stewardess working on the opposing flight. We missed our first Valentine's Day together, and then he abruptly waves me off over his shoulder. He holds his right hand in front of the first officer, shutting him up, and pushes the talk key on the yoke. Calling over to Pan Am Flight 441, my captain says to theirs, "Tell the purser to get Flight Attendant S to the cockpit." Then he flips a switch on the side panel, and I hear a hissing sound from the overhead speaker. As he hands me the coil-corded mic over his right shoulder, standing between him and the first officer, I'm mesmerized. Here I am looking out the front of the cockpit of this huge 747. We're at 38,000 feet, zipping along at around 550 miles an hour, and below us is the entire Caribbean Sea, magnificently lit up by the moon. Just then, crackling over the cockpit speakers, we hear the so familiar, soft, sweet voice of my beloved girlfriend. In shock, I can tell. "This is Pamela." Turns out she was on first rest rotation and had just gone down for her break, so was asleep when they called her to the cockpit. "Hi, sweetheart." I keyed over the mic. I would love to have seen her face, as I'm sure she instantly recognized my voice like I did hers. I love you so much. I'm so sorry we couldn't be together yesterday. I loudly continued over the din of rushing air that, makes it hard to even hear yourself. Pam has this endearing little grunt she makes just before she laughs or cries, and I heard it over the speaker just as she replied, I love you too. Keying the mic, I continued, I can't wait to get you back in my arms. Have a safe trip to Rio. Happy Valentines. Pick you up curbside. Our code for a particular spot at the Miami terminal, and I keyed off. I love you too. See you soon, honey. Oh, I love you so much. Pam's voice sweetly wafts through the cockpit. Then I handed the mic back to the captain and take a big lean forward over the center console of our 747. Looking through those huge panoramic windows, scanning the horizon, in the hopes of seeing Flight 441's lights as she passed us in the night. As I carefully backed my way out of the cockpit, wiping my eyes, reflected in the moonlight filling the cabin, I could see tears and smiles on every face. End of chapter 14.